Today's story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit and was posted by NoAlternative7859 and was titled, I, 28 female, am going to ask my husband, 28 male, for a divorce during our therapy session. My husband, 28 male, and I, 28 female, have been together for 7 years, married for 2. Just prior to our marriage, my husband began to develop an alcohol dependency that has progressed over time and came to an ugly head this past month. Around a month ago, my husband came home obviously drunk, which upset me given his history and previous commitment to sobriety since October. Turns out that was not the case. I know I should have waited to address the issue the next day instead of in the moment, but I was so angry about the deception and the fact that he clearly drove home drunk that I yelled at him. Things got pretty heated while I tried to get him to bed, to a point where he was charging at me and threatening to hurt himself. Eventually, I felt I had no choice but to call 911, which he obviously heard, and he punched a hole in our wall and one of our bathroom doors out of fear/anger due to some past childhood trauma with police in his home. He was arrested and charged, and I've been staying with my parents since. He had his initial hearing this past Monday, and I attended. Today, I needed to stop by our house to grab a few things and texted him to let him know. After hours and no confirmation, he typically leaves if I need to come over. I ended up stopping at our house anyway, only to discover the house completely unkempt, a strong smell of weed, and ashtrays all over the house. He does have a history of smoking weed and heavily overindulges, in my opinion. He has also been unemployed since February due to leave a toxic work environment and has not been actively looking for a job to replace lost income. As far as I know, he is mostly playing video games, hanging out with friends, or taking trips on his motorcycle, which it looks like he did today. This has been a major point of contention, to the point where he has accused me of financial abuse because I asked him to get any job so that I'm not the only one paying bills. I want to be there for him, and I want him to get sober and healthy again, but the clear lack of effort to truly get better just drained any romantic love I've left for him. We have couples therapy on Friday, and I am planning to tell him then, but he is often hostile with me during our sessions and tends to try to argue with our therapist the entire time, so I'm not sure how to deliver this news to him during that time. How can I tell my husband I want a divorce during our therapy session? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, just do it in therapy. You're in a safe place and your therapist will be there, so I would do it then, but I would not go to that house alone. After you drop that bombshell, I would have a friend, your parent, or somebody come with you if you need to pick up stuff from the house. I'm just saying his mental health could go super crazy and he could hurt you. Good luck, friend. God bless. Just tell him and get it over with in therapy. Opie replied, my parents are aware of my plans, so they are available to go with me when I pick up all of my things. I'm concerned with how he'll react, but I definitely don't see any way that I could do this with him alone. Commenter 2 says, call the police non-emergency line and ask for an officer. One will come and wait outside as a presence so you can safely gather your things. The most dangerous time in a woman's life is when she tries to leave. Don't downplay the risk. Your SDBX is an unemployed addict with an anger problem. He has nothing left to lose. ETA. Also, stop going to therapy with him. The only way to stop something is to stop. If you want to divorce him, then stop talking to him. Stop engaging. Hire an attorney and have him served. You aren't on the same team anymore. Commenter 3 says, depending on state laws, she may need a restraining order to have police escort her to get her things. Was he arrested for DV? Is there a no-contact protective order with his charges? That may work in place of temporary restraining order. Opie replied, yes to DV, no to protective order at this time, but I can request it per my victim's rights packet if I feel a definable need for it. I had asked for it to be removed when this all first happened because I felt overwhelmed and didn't want to completely lose access to my house and things. Honestly, I didn't realize that a protective order wouldn't prevent me from accessing those things, so it seemed like the right choice at the time. Commenter 4 says, if you haven't already, start moving valuables out now. If he gets violent, he will definitely destroy your things. Opie replied, I took all of my important documents and personal valuables when I initially packed up to head to my parents, because I did think about what his anger could do to something like my passport or my grandfather's service medals. Otherwise, I packed a single suitcase and my dog and left behind what I could reasonably part with. I will definitely not be going on my own to collect anything from here on out. Commenter 5 says, I agree with calling the police non-emergency line or a domestic abuse hotline to get advice on how to safely retrieve your belongings. If he's dangerous, I would be hesitant to bring parents instead of an authority. Also, I notice in your post that you make excuses for him, such as leaving his work because of a toxic work environment and punching the wall because of prior trauma from childhood. People have bad stuff happen and they don't drive drunk, punch holes in walls, etc. There's a book called Codependent No More, very specific to your situation and should help. Opie replied, I know. I've been seeing a therapist separately through work, and I'm trying to work on not making attempts to shield him from his own behavior. Definitely a work in progress, and I'll pick up that book. I haven't had a chance to fill much out yet or call, but I do have a victim advocate for the court case, so I'll follow up on resources for when I go get all of my stuff. I just feel stupid for considering myself a victim when it could be so much worse. Opie on why she is still attending therapy with her husband. Opie says, this is our last session together. I kept it because up until today, I thought we could try to repair. This is where I feel safest to break the news, and even if he does have a tantrum, he's having it in a controlled environment that prevents him from making an impulsive and rash decision regarding his life or my safety. Opie on if there is someone else who can handle the husband within his family and friends. Opie says his parents are both gone, and he's estranged from most of his family due to his behavior. He does have friends, but they have been less inclined to intervene because of his behavior as well. It's also not their job. I'm not going to rehome my husband like a dog. He's a fully grown man who can figure out where to go from here, just like I'm doing now. No one can or is willing to swoop in and save him from himself except me. And that's not an option anymore. Downvoted commenter says, it's crazy that you didn't find out he was an ounce of this fucked up before you married him. Opie replied, he barely drank the first 4 years of our relationship, which I preferred since I don't drink save for special occasions. It really did just develop rapidly and out of nowhere. He's a completely different person. I can accept that there were likely signs, but I did not, nor did anyone else, see them, I guess. Commenter 6 says, nearly every time Opie mentions her husband's bad behavior, she follows it up with an excuse he likely told her. Oh, he punched a wall because of childhood trauma? No, he punched a wall because he's an abusive alcoholic. Opie replied, you're right, there are excuses, and I'm trying really hard to work on not doing this with a separate therapist. It's reflexive for me at this point, so it's been a hell of a habit to break. It's been difficult for me to reconcile with the fact that this is abuse, because while I would stare at another woman with disbelief if she told me it's not abuse because he's not hitting her, I've been unwilling to apply that to myself. He's not been good to me for a while, but I haven't been good to me either, and it has to stop. Commenter 7 says, why do you feel you need to be there for him? Honestly, this sounds like something he's going to need to tackle on his own. I think you're smart to do this in therapy, and I think you need to make sure that you have an exit plan in place in case he becomes upset or violent. Also, hopefully you've moved everything out of your house, so you don't need to go back there. That's one of the most dangerous times for a woman leaving a bad relationship. Opie replied, I haven't taken all of my stuff yet because he's still living in our house and the majority of the furniture is technically mine. While I'm going to divorce him, I didn't want to put him on the street immediately after the police incident. I took my passport, birth certificate, and some other valuables to be on the safe side, but for the most part, I shoved as much as I could in a single suitcase and took my dog. I know you're right about the danger, so I have worked out logistics with my parents, but it is hard to hear. This is not where I envisioned myself, and I always thought I would pick better than this. Update 1. My husband, 28 male, did show up to our therapy session, and I, 28 female, was able to tell him with our therapist that I will be filing for divorce. I also brought a list of our assets and how I thought they should be divided up so we could try to walk away from this amicably. He was obviously devastated, as am I, but did state he saw this coming. He did make statements of harming himself, to which our therapist suggested having a 1-to-1 session the rest of the hour, which I agreed to since I didn't want to be there anymore. All things considered, it went as well as it could, and I don't think he will be violent toward me, but I'll still be taking precautions in case. I was also notified on Wednesday that he was arrested again for fleeing an officer in misdemeanor bail jumping. This means he violated one of his bail conditions from the original arrest, and I'm assuming it's the sobriety condition. It's clear to me that while he regrets his actions each time, he's not ready to face the problem or get help, and I just have to grieve and move forward. Thank you for all of the kind words, firm advice, and even some of the less than savory responses. I'm obviously struggling hard right now, and am trying to sit with all of the emotions that I'm feeling right now, and I'm grateful to have found support here and in my family and friends. I'm reminded that there's no shame in my choice and that I did the right thing. If I have anything else, I'll come back and update this post, but otherwise, I just want to keep moving forward toward a future where I'm happy, healthy, and on the other side of this. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "Very sorry you're going through this. You can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. Maybe one day he'll find his way, but you deserve to be safe and loved. Best wishes." Hope you replied, "Thank you. I really hope he does find his way as well." You're also right. No amount of me loving him or missing who he was before all of this is a reason to excuse the emotional turmoil and abuse I've endured through this. And I have to choose my safety now, even though it kind of feels awful at the moment. I know it's grief, and this situation is one of the hardest things I will probably ever have to go through, but I know I will be okay, and I will find my way through this. Commenter 2 says, "I don't know you, but I'm proud of you for getting yourself out of this situation. You did the right thing, and I'm so glad you put your well-being first. Remember that it's normal to grieve the end of any relationship, and it's okay to feel all the feelings." Hope you replied, "Thank you. I'm having a very hard time coping with feeling like I abandoned him. I know he doesn't have a solid support system outside of me, and now that's gone. I still love this person, and I'm so gutted that he really doesn't have anywhere to go or anyone to turn to since his parents are gone, and he's estranged from most of his siblings. But there's just nothing more I can do for him at this point, and that feels heavy." Update 2. I noticed a lot of up-to-teen comments on my previous post, so I figured I'd feed the beast, though it isn't a big one. So sorry in advance if you came here for something salacious and typical Reddit levels of insanity. After dragging my feet for a good month, mainly from just being exhausted, I did get a lawyer and am officially separated from my husband as of 6/30, which means we'll be divorced by late October/early November. Honestly, I feel like I'm on cloud 9. I recently earned a senior level title change and raise at work. I'm back in the gym regularly now and look great, and I have so much more energy for my other hobbies and relationships. I've picked up my love of reading again and have connected with more people who share a love of spicy fantasy novels, something my husband used to make fun of me for. I can do what I want, whenever I want, and there's no emotional sandbagging or complaints from someone else about doing things that make me happy. On a drama-related note, a couple weeks ago, I noticed several $200 ATM transactions from our joint account and one $1,500 charge to some restaurant/catering place. I saw it was from my husband's card and assumed it was fraud, so I got a hold of him to have him freeze his card. Turns out it was him trying to show a friend that was moving away a good time. Obviously, I'm wondering where that enthusiasm was during the last few years of our relationship, but I digress. He claims he meant to use his personal card, which roughly translates to he was hoping I wouldn't notice the massive charges. I told him he had a couple weeks to replace the money, or I'd be taking it to my lawyer, since massive movements of money is a big no during the divorce process. I got lots of excuses about how sick to his stomach he was and how terrible of a person he is, to which I just told him to replace the money and leave me alone. I'm 100% certain alcohol was involved the night he decided to spend thousands on this so-called friend, which means he once again violated his bail conditions. Speaking of bail, the disorderly conduct case is now closed, with him pleading no contest and paying a whopping $67 fine. I did not go to the final hearing and just looked up the court record, because why would I show up for a man who consistently failed to show up for me when I needed it? Anyway, I'm sure I sound snarky and riled, and I am, but I think it's a good thing. I lost me somewhere along the way, and I'm happy I found her again. I forgot how much I actually like myself after spending so much time with a man who clearly stopped liking me. I don't think I'll have much else until divorce day. So for now, thank you again to everyone who listened, gave advice and well wishes. I appreciate it more than I can say through a Reddit post. Also, to sound cliche, I did not expect this to have the reach it did or end up on YouTube, but I'm grateful for it and the outpouring of people who showed support and share their own stories. And for those of you who might be going through something similar and don't know what to do, take it from me and get out. I promise it will be so much better. You don't have to be with someone who stifles your spark. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, I'm so curious about the $1,500 catering charge. That's such a specific, weird amount for someone who's supposedly not doing anything shady. Also, picking up spicy fantasy novels again after someone made you feel embarrassed about them is its own kind of coming home. My copy of Kushiel's Dart has been staring at me from the shelf for like 6 months, and this might be the push I needed. Opie replied, so I can't be specific about the name of the place without essentially saying where I live. I'm not 100%, it's just a catering place. I think a restaurant too, but its name is basically city name, catering. It shows up on the card that way. So I'm confident it's above board. I'm just baffled at the idea of spending that kind of money on a friend he's known for maybe 6 months. Hence my certainty on the alcohol being involved. Spicy Romantasy is 100% my vengeance arc through all of this, and I'm having a hell of a good time. Commenter 2 says, that's a strip club charge. Opie replied, I'm partially thinking that if the transactions weren't truly real-time. The restaurant location is a 45-minute drive from the only strip club in our city, so it's definitely possible. Someone else asked, so I'll share. I did some Google sleuthing, and I'm inclined to think people commenting about being a big spender at the strip club are right. I looked up the restaurant, and there's no reasonable way to spend $1,500 there, even if you literally went with 20 people. I also looked at the transaction again, and the name is more generic than I initially thought, so that's my educated guess. It really tickles me, though, because we only have one strip club in our mid-sized city, and it is the seediest, shittiest, most dilapidated building out in the boonies. I can't imagine he got anything halfway decent with $1,500 there, whether it was mediocre top-shelf liquor or a sad handy. Commenter 3 says, 6 months is wild for that kind of spend, but honestly the Romantasy Vengeance arc sounds like a way better investment than trying to figure out what a 6-month friendship catering bill actually means. Hope replied, agreed. I was very hurt when I first discovered it and definitely cried about it since I felt even more betrayed, but now I just don't care about the what or why. I just want the money put back / factored into the settlement. I get that it's a natural curiosity and fun to speculate why for others, and I've definitely got much thicker skin about it now. But any of the options just end up hurting me, and I'm not into that kind of self-flagellation. Commenter 4 says, hope your ex pays the bills within the set time frame. I would give your lawyer a heads up just in case they suggest you documenting the conversation where he said he'd pay it back and it was an oopsie. Worst case, it will factor into the final divorce settlement since the marriage hasn't been dissolved officially yet. Cutting his authorized user credit card status sooner decreases more drunk nights he uses the card. Even while drunk, it probably occurred to him you'd see it and say something to him, which is attention. You're probably looking forward to decreasing that, and it's another and you can close sooner. Highly recommend A Court of Thorns and Roses. Opie replied, he hasn't replaced the full amount as of today, so I do plan to let my lawyer know. The attention angle is a good call-out that I didn't consider. I figured he's still busy considering me public enemy number 1 since he always saw me as an obstacle in the way of his drinking and told me as much, but two things can be true at the same time. I read and liked A Court of Thorns and Roses, but A Court of Silver Flames has my heart. I'm working on Throne of Glass right now, and ironically, the Plated Prisoner series, which may or may not have caused me to have some ugly, snot bubble, dry heaving crying sessions during certain spots that were a little too on the nose. The second story is from Off Me Chest subreddit. It was posted by burner account 140226 and was titled, My husband spent over $3,000 on World Cup tickets. We can't afford this, and I'm furious. I don't need any advice about what to do. I just need to get this out because of how absolutely furious I am. My husband bought 3 tickets for the World Cup, and each one cost over $1,000. I have been furious since I found out. We absolutely cannot afford this, and my husband knows it, but he still bought them. I found out he entered the most recent lottery to get tickets. I have since also found out that it was different from the previous lotteries. Instead of going online and buying tickets right when they went on sale, you had to submit a list of which games you wanted tickets for, and if you won the lottery tickets, and your credit card would automatically get charged. Our credit card was charged on Monday, and normally I get an alert whenever our card is used, but my husband deleted it from my phone before I saw it. It didn't see the charge until 2 days later, and I thought our card was compromised. I found out what the charge was, and I was still going to dispute it because we absolutely can't afford it. But my husband already paid it and confirmed he made that purchase. He took money from our emergency account. We have less than $100 in our emergency account now. Our emergency fund was low already because 2.5 years ago my husband lost his job and he was out of work for a year. We had to dip into our emergency savings a bunch of times while he was unemployed. He knows what our financial situation is like, and I can't believe he did this. If I didn't have some overtime shifts scheduled over the next 2 weeks, we would not be able to afford our next mortgage payment. I'm furious, and he says I'm overreacting. He says he's taking his dad and his brother to the World Cup because both of their birthdays are the same week as the game. But that doesn't mean we can afford to spend over $3,000. My husband said at least the tickets didn't cost $1,500 each, and he also dropped a bomb on me. He applied for tickets to every game that is being played in our city, and if he had won all the games instead of just one, the total cost would have been over $12,000. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked my husband where we would have gotten that kind of money, and he just said we would figure it out. He tried telling me that Canada has a huge demand for World Cup tickets, so that's why it cost him over $1,000 per ticket. As if that is an explanation for what he did. I can't even explain how furious I am. We have to go to marriage counseling because of how strained things got after my husband got fired. But that's not going to cut it anymore. I have always been the breadwinner in our marriage, and that's never bothered me. But now this stupid decision, he made it as the last straw. I try to make it work, but I can't anymore. I'm going to get my ducks in a row and talk to a lawyer before I do anything with our finances. Then I'm done with him. He thinks I'm overreacting and that all of this is big joke. I'm done. Also, I'm going to turn off chats. I don't need to be called a doormat or other names. I'm not going to marriage counseling anymore, and I'm leaving him. I don't need to hear him spineless over and over. I get it. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, so he's using your money and not even taking you. Hope you replied, I don't watch or follow soccer at all. Even if we could afford tickets, I wouldn't go to a game. I do understand your point, but a ticket would be wasted on me. I would just be bored the entire time. Commenter 2 says, so congratulations on your new and separate bank account to which he does not have access. Opie replied, I won't be doing that or anything related to our finances until I speak with a lawyer. One of my friends went through a divorce and her husband faced consequences in court for separating money and withdrawing financial support, and I do not want that to happen to me. I'll only be following advice from my lawyer. Commenter 3 says, sell the tickets on the secondary market. Make a loss into a win. Depending on the match, you can make 2 or 3x. Opie replied, I don't have the tickets. My husband had them, and I have no idea how I would even access them. Now he's telling me he transferred them to either or his dad or his brother. He won't say which one because he doesn't want me to be able to ruin this for them. I'm done with him over this. Commenter 4 says, tell his father about it. If not for anything, but to cause some chaos before you leave. I'm not normal for this, but assuming his father isn't the reason for the way he is, it might end up with your soon-to-be ex-husband learning a real lesson since this clearly isn't getting to him. Maybe you'll even end up with your money back and be rid of the leech who lost it in the first place. Opie replied, his dad doesn't care, and neither does his brother. Commenter 5 says, they can support him now. If it were me, I'd be locking down finances, freezing credit, closing joint accounts, and stashing money in a new account at a bank or credit union he knows nothing about, and I'd do it all quietly. Then, as soon as he leaves for the game, I'd start packing his stuff so he can move it to his dad's or brother's. Financial infidelity is a trust destroyer. You deserve to work for you, not a spongy guy who shows you no respect or appreciation. You're clearly capable. I bet you'll be way better off by this time next year. Opie replied, the World Cup is in June and July. I'm not waiting until then to leave. I'm leaving him now. I'm going to speak to a lawyer and get all my ducks in a row. I want to find out what financial obligations I have towards him before we get divorced. My friend's husband got in trouble for withdrawal of financial support when he left. The court did not like that he did that while they were still married. I don't want that to happen to me, so I need to talk to a lawyer before I do anything with money. I also have to make plans to move because our condo is in both of our names, and I already know I can't force him to leave if he doesn't want to. I will ask the lawyer how to go about that. Commenter 6 says, report it as fraud to your credit card company. Hope you replied, I did. The credit card company said it isn't fraud because my husband already made payment and confirmed it was his purchase. I'm not giving up, but credit card company won't budge. Update. I'm the person whose husband spent over $3,000 on World Cup tickets, leaving less than $100 in our emergency account. He tried to justify it by saying Canada had a huge demand for tickets, and that's why it cost over $1,000 per ticket. Meanwhile, if I had not had some overtime shifts scheduled at work, we would not have been able to afford our next mortgage payment because the money in the emergency fund was all gone. The emergency fund already was low already because 2.5 years ago, he lost his job and he was out of work for a year. We had to dip into our emergency fund a bunch of times while he was unemployed. He knew how precarious our financial situation was, but he thought World Cup tickets were more important. I posted 5 months ago, and my update is just a small one, but I have left him and am seeking a divorce. I moved out 4 months ago. We have been going to marriage counseling because of how strained things got after he got fired from his job for the second time during our marriage. But the World Cup tickets were the nail in the coffin. Before I moved out, he had the gall to complain to me about how we couldn't afford some of his favorites from the grocery store. If it wasn't for me working some overtime, we wouldn't have been able to buy any food at all. I have already hired a lawyer, and since there was no case for a fault divorce, I have to be separated from him for a year in order to get a divorce. Although my lawyer said the only thing filing on a fault ground does is forego the 1-year waiting period. It doesn't affect the settlement or the division of assets. I may have to pay some spousal support since I was the higher earner, but it's a small price to pay for being rid of him. He doesn't want a divorce. He asked me to stay and continue marriage counseling. He still went to the game 3 months after I left, while also telling me I should stay. Also to address some things from my first post that kept coming up. His dad and brother did not care about him spending our emergency fund on the tickets. His dad, his brother, and his friends thought he was right. We all live in the city where the game was played. No one would have had to get a flight or a hotel. I don't watch soccer, and even if we could have afforded tickets, I wouldn't have gone to a game. My anger was about him draining our emergency fund. It wasn't about me not being invited to the game. Instead of going online and buying tickets right when they went on sale, you had to submit a list of which games you wanted tickets for, and if you won any games you applied for, your credit card would automatically get charged. He applied for tickets to every game that is being played in our city, and if he had won all the games instead of just one, the total cost would have been over $12,000. This was enough to tell me that our marriage was over. I am following the advice of my lawyer regarding finances and will not be fully withdrawing financial support as many comments in my first post suggested. I don't want to face consequences in the divorce proceedings and will follow my lawyer's guidance on how to proceed, no matter how much the comments double down on what I should do. As I mentioned in my first post, I'm leaving my messages off because I don't need more people calling me spineless or to keep telling me I didn't leave him the correct way.